Hi, and welcome to the Art of Technical Analysis Academy. And before we start, I want to state a disclaimer that this is not financial advice. This is for pure educational purposes only. Well, now that you have mastered the first level, it's time to move on the second level. It's level 2, predicting the next possible pattern formation. Alright, as you can see, there are a bit more steps, but it's pretty similar to the previous video, since the only difference is that we are going into a shorter time frames. Let's continue where we were at the first video, the first level. The Bitcoin US dollar chart. The first thing we're gonna check out before continuing, because you really need to know this. It's very important information. Whenever you are creating or drawing out a pattern formation, the logarithmic must be turned off. I wish you would. This is what happens when you turn it on. As you can see, my trend waves are all messed up. Even this pattern doesn't make sense anymore. It's quite remarkable that the main pattern is still intact. Anyhow, the reason for this, that this is all messed up now, is that they do not concern logarithmic value, since the price jumps here and it's not consistent, so visually you will get this. So never turn it on when you're drawing pattern formations. Logarithmic skill is something we're gonna dive into in the next video, the next level 3. Moving averages, that's the only time you should use logarithmic scale. Otherwise, just turn it off, or keep it off, keep it disabled. Let's move on to the next step. Now we're going to dive into the shorter time frames. And as I like to use an analogy, the movie Inception. Like in the movie, they're dreaming or diving into a dream within a dream within a dream. We're also gonna do pretty much the same. We're gonna search for patterns within patterns within patterns. And the similar thing is that it also becomes more dangerous and more riskier when you dive into shorter time frames, because here's a strong example. Pattern formations in shorter time frames, they tend to evolve into a different pattern formation, and quite on a fast rate as well. Pretty fast rate, or quick, whatever. As you can see, this was a falling wedge pattern formation, which broke out to the upside, obviously. But finding resistance over here, getting rejected by the bears, and now heading towards perhaps retesting the support. I'm getting tongue tied here. So as you can imagine, in shorter time frames, this happens a lot of times. So I do not recommend doing this in very short time frames, especially when you're a beginner. I don't recommend going any lower than 1 hour time frame. Everything shorter or beneath, it becomes really dangerous. So let's start by doing what we learned at the first step, but this time we're going to a lower time frame. Like I always do, I change up to lines when I'm doing this, connecting the tops, significant tops, and since this is nowhere near finished, we've got no second or first confirmations, so we're gonna make this dashed, and let's extend this. As you can see, we can use this as reference, this wave, this wave. Now we got a small clue that the probability that this is going to continue downwards is pretty high. It's still a speculation, assumption, so keep that in mind. This is nowhere near complete. Let's draw in the current prominent support. I would say it would be like this. This is connecting beautifully with this one as well. Let's make this a support color. And let's extend this. Oh wow, look at that. It's beautifully intertwining with the other patterns. I like to call, since I'm calling the main pattern the alpha pattern, I call this the beta pattern. And now we've got a possible pattern here emerging. So the next possible point would probably be here somewhere, but let's go to the next step. Draw in the trend wave. So as you can see, what we're actually doing here is making a more detailed view of this trend wave. Of course, this is already the most detailed view there is, but we want to know the average movement, right? Let's see. We got it there, so let's start there. This thing is going up, probably. Looks like it anyways. Let's turn back to candles, and we're still in the daily. So let's go to a 4-hour time frame. Look at that. This is looking far more obvious. If I haven't said it yet, this is a descending broadening wedge, a pretty steep one. So most of the time, if this plays out, yeah, this is gonna break out. Reverse here, find supports here, heading towards to retest the resistance. But we had our our first confirmation of resistance already here, and like we know about broadening wedges that are descending, they have a high probability of breaking to the upside or reversing bullish, and otherwise we will have a bearish continuation, which would be very bad news, but I don't see that happening. Anyways, let's finish this possible trajectory, this trend wave trajectory. We're always using this as reference-ish waves. Probably something like this is going to happen. Finding resistance here, bouncing back off support there somewhere. Well, it could actually go like this. It's possible, since Bitcoin wants to break out sooner rather than later. But it is possible that this trend will continue to go down. Actually, highly possible, since we're using this trend reference wave, this wave as reference. So probably it's gonna go like this. If it does get rejected here, it will find definite support over here and then continue to go up. Well, that's it actually. There's one more thing, perhaps a little bonus. There's a fundamental mark you should know. 12th of May, approximately 12th of May, or May 12th, this year, we got a very significant event for Bitcoin, and that's the Bitcoin halving of 2020. The meaning of this is, let's see, 12th May, that's about here somewhere, yeah. Look at that. I think it's gonna go like that, actually. More like that. This would make a lot more sense, actually. This look chopped up. Anyways, what will happen on the halving is that the blockchain reward will be cut in half. So the scarcity will increase. So the chance of from that moment that the price will increase is pretty high. Let's say that. Now that we have our trend waves, we can start making strategies. Let's see, if you're a scalper, if you want to be a scalper, a good moment will be, of course, here, right? If you have, if actually here, of course, but we didn't know this yet. Of course, when we saw this, it would be like this. So when this got rejected, and now this thing is finding support over here. Let's move that a bit, like that. Since the bounce off is here, this would have been a great point to long, and exit your position would probably somewhere here if this thing finds resistance over here, if it gets rejected by the bulls, which is highly probable, of course, since we're following this trend reference. So when this thing is gonna get rejected, it has to retest or bounce back up again somewhere, and then the most logical point will be here, of course. And if it doesn't find support here, that might continue to go down like that. But since we're only trying to predict here, let's stay with this prediction. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody. This is all speculation. Although, however, pattern formations, I have to say, this is one of the most accurate way of observing the behavior of the buyers and the sellers. So mastering this is a real must before you continue learning other methods. Let's continue. So now we've got a possible trajectory, a rough estimation anyways. And you would like to enter a short position, then this would be a great point to enter. So when this thing finds rejection, so candles closes underneath this resistance line, once this is, then we get our first confirmation of resistance, then a bounce or a pullback down is highly probable. So then you would like to probably somewhere here, 9100 is a beautiful psychological number. That would be a great point to enter a short or sell your bitcoins and buy it back up here, or exit your short position here. Oh, sorry. Once it gets rejected and bounce back off and the candle closes, this might be a beautiful point to enter a long position. See, this is how we this is pretty much how you make strategies on the markets, you know. Let's make this red. Yeah. Since these are selling or short positions, well, I would say once this thing bounces off this support, there's around the 5k-ish region. So when it goes up again, around perhaps 5100 would be a safe spot, I would say. I mean, this is a pretty resounding support, especially when you look at this. Look, when I change this to daily, it doesn't change at all. It's not even moving an inch, you know. It's finding perfect support here. So that's a very, very strong support line. That's why I call this the main support, the alpha pattern. Moving on. So now this this might be when we extrapolate a possible target We start from the last breakout point to the top. Copy paste this, and look at that. It's just, it's almost not a coincidence. No, I'm just kidding. But look, it does make sense, right? That this thing should go up like that. Find some support or whatever here. This is looking weird. Things should be like that. This is what makes most sense to me. This is also looking more beautiful. This doesn't like that. And look, let's see if this thing goes break out from there. Well, as you can see, it should go up there actually. So I would decrease the opacity of this trend waves, so because I think, in my opinion anyways, this is a low probability of happening. Alright, let's change back to shorter time frames, since that was what we were supposed to do. Alright, now this got all messed up, as you can see, because we've been changing this in the larger time frames. Or the longer time frames, for that matter. Let's see. Let's correct this. So we're shorting from. So why are we shorting from these points? Well, these are the safest points, right? They got a confirmation of a rejection. So what's the most logical thing it should do? A continuation, right? Going down further. This happens a lot on broadening wedges. This structure, as you can see here. It doesn't always have to be like this, you know. As you know, finding support, a second confirmation. I mean, it's all probability, although the probabilities are very high. But in this case, since this broadening wedge, this descending broadening wedge is pretty steep, I would say it will find support here. Like the references, our main references are suggesting, right? That there should be a bounce off around this region. So when it goes up, like here, the breakout point, I would say, let's synchronize this point like that. So this would be a very safe spot to enter a long position, I would say, for this trend. But don't forget, but remember guys, this is a possible trend. So now we've got pretty much analyzed the upcoming weeks, what can happen with the price action level. And as you can see, the more you go into it, the messier it becomes. The messier it will become. So try to keep it clean. I would say let's get rid of this, that, like that. I would go like that. Yeah, I think this is a beautiful strategy if the price actually plays out like this, the Bitcoin price, as we speak. All right, that's pretty much pattern formations, and as I stated before, this is one of the most accurate way of observing the behavior of buyers and sellers. This is due to all kinds of situations. Think of selling orders, buying orders, forgotten limit orders, or you know, all kinds of stuff. So, well, master this before you're moving on. And I think you'll be quite amazed what you can do now. You should try this on other markets. I will definitely do that once we've finished the Academies series. Or perhaps I will do some live stream. We'll see. Well, anyways, thanks for watching and listening. Hopefully you learned something. If you have any comment, leave it, and don't forget to like and subscribe and click the little notification bell. Thanks.